It was great to be part of a community and get to know people and get to know the kids, not just on a school level, but just more personal. So we got to be a part of the Harvest Dinner. I got to volunteer with Girls Club, and I got to meet people who work at I think it was the weather station.
Yeah.
And it was, I really enjoyed that.
It was definitely fun to go somewhere that I've never been before, and it was definitely somewhere way outside my box. Like, I've never been anywhere so remote. I've never been so outside of a city, and it was really enjoyable to see how people live and the community and nature around, and the difference between living in a big city in southern Ontario versus living in a little small city in the middle of a forest.
I found that at times it was difficult to deal with some of the social issues that were happening. So some of the kids, for example, did not have enough food, or some of the kids were dealing with mental health issues like depression, or some of the girls were cutting themselves. Things like that I found difficult to work my way around. But I had amazing support from both my teachers and people in the community that I could always ask for support or help, and they were very helpful.
Anyway, it was hard to see how difficult some children's lives are. They don't have much of a childhood, some of them, whereas others in the community still have very much of a childhood that everybody else does around Ontario and North America. But to see kids with like such hardships so early in their life is really hard and sad. It kind of pulls on your heartstrings.
I think you have to have a passion for teaching. You have to love it. You have to be able to go out there and try new things, new experiences. Like, I'm a quiet person. I think I'm kind of shy. So me going up there, I was very, very nervous. So nervous going up there. Up until the point you came and picked me up, I was just so nervous. But I got there and I loved it so much because I love teaching. I love what I do. I have a passion for it. And I think above all else, if you have that, that will override it.
Passion's important, and I think it's important to want to step out and do something different that you're not used to. Even if you're shy and it's something that you're thinking about doing, give it a shot, because really, what's the worst that can happen? Later in life, if you don't do it, you might regret not doing it. And I can tell you right now, looking back at it, it was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had. And I would do it over again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like, the community's so great. Like, kids are so loving, and you get so attached to them so quickly. It's remarkable, but it's just a fun time, and it's something different that you can do, and you can look back on later in life and be like, I did that. You gotta be easygoing. You gotta be ready to flip your game plan in a heartbeat, just like in any classroom, but I feel like more so up there, because the kids really do drive what they want to learn versus what you want them to learn. So if they don't want to learn math today, you're not going to be able to make them learn math. You got to figure out another way to get them to do it without them knowing that you made them do it. So that's fine.
And also, you have to be creative as well. Just very open-minded. Bring that creativity to a math lesson, or to an English lesson, or to a geography lesson, and just have them do a lot of maybe hands-on things that just represent their community, represent who they are, make it more personable. Well, when I was teaching, I noticed that a lot of the kids were 2 or 3 levels below curriculum levels. So for example, my students who were in grade 8 were reading at a grade 6 or 5 level. So a lot of the times I tried to choose stories, or I tried to do things that would relate to them, not something that was abstract, but something that was personal to their experience and to their world. So for example, I did a math assignment, and rather than choosing something from a textbook, I did something that would relate to that. They enjoyed that because it was talking about them, but at the same time, I was completing the curriculum requirements. And they got to graph all of that, and we talked about what a survey was, and it worked for them.
Yeah, you gotta pick things that are age appropriate, but at the same time, what they can do, because if you pick it at a reading level that they're supposed to be at, they're not gonna be able to do it. And they just get frustrated, and it makes it harder for them, and they just shut off, and you lose them for the whole day. So you have to make sure that you're picking things that they're able to do, but not at a level where they feel like they're reading a little kid's book, right? Like, oh, this is a kindergarten book, I don't want to read this. You got to pick something that they think they want to read. So you have to be more open to what's around, and you might have to write your own story. Like, you never know what's going to happen in your classroom. And you got to be yourself too, and they know more than anybody else in the world. They know when you're being fake to them, and they know when when you're trying to make them feel better and you're being fake, they know it right away and they'll call you on it. So you got to be a genuine person, and you can't be like, oh, I'm gonna go up there and act this way and they'll all love me. Like, no, you be yourself and they're gonna love you more. So definitely just being yourself is a good thing to do.
When I first got there, I was doing a lot of planning. I was planning to the point where I had a plan for the plan, and I was very structured and very scheduled. And I noticed just that being up there and teaching in general, you cannot be structured or very strict about timeline. I think you have to be a little bit more relaxed, and as it comes, it will happen. Let it happen as it comes. I don't know how else to phrase it, but I just think that we try to, as teachers, I think we try to schedule student learning, and we schedule it too much at times. And I just noticed that sometimes the kids didn't get things one day, but the next day they understood it. So sometimes it's okay to go back and revisit, relearn, and review things, right? And I don't think I would have gotten that teaching in a city, but being up there, it was just really relaxed.
You definitely have to remember to give them more time than usual. Every child works at their own pace, but I was planning like, this is going to take us an hour, and it was taking us 2 hours, and it was throwing everything off that I had planned for the day. So I had to remember, like, the next day, like, okay, so that took me 2 hours, so maybe I'll plan this for like half an hour. But then the next day they'd go to do that project or that assignment, and they'd be done in 15 minutes, and you'd be like, whoa, what just happened? So like, really, they work at their own pace, and some days they're like right on as fast as can be, and the next day they'll be slower than molasses. So like, there's nothing you can do. You just have to go with the flow and have backup plans and be ready to have something else to go on if they're quick, and if they're slow, then let them be slow and let them take their time and figure it out, because they're learning. It doesn't really matter how fast they learn. They just start learning, and that they're coming to school to see you is a great thing, because a lot of them miss a lot of days, and that's it's hard to have them trying to catch up when you're missing so much school. So just have it fun and engaging, so that they're coming back day after day is really something that I took away from it.
I found that too. It's not just about the coursework itself, but it's the process to getting to the end. What's the journey to the end product? It's not necessarily the idea behind the assignment or the assignment itself. It's not about the grade. It's about getting there, right? That's very important. Well, when we were up there's no cell phone service. Internet was hit and miss. So if somebody's very technologically connected, yeah, that's a good word, you probably wouldn't enjoy it because you are not connected to the outside world. Even TV was sparse. So.
If you're an outdoors person, definitely great. If you don't like the outdoors, if you're afraid of nature, if you're
animals.
Yeah, if you're nervous about animals being around, not for you. But if you're somebody that's willing to check out nature and try something different that way, then it's definitely something fun to do.
It's really cold up there too,
yeah.
So if you're not a fan of the winter, wouldn't recommend you going. We got to go hunting, which was amazing, and coming from Toronto, I've never seen anything like this. Our neighbor, the first day we got there, we went for a walk, and our neighbor's like, come on in, I have 2 moose hanging in my garage, and I walked in and I saw these moose hanging, and his wife was just shaving off pieces, and I thought, how amazing is that? Something so simple, and it's part of their livelihood, and it was just amazing.
And then we went up the North Road hunting as well, and we got to see a lot of tracks. We got to see lynx tracks. I think we saw Wolverine tracks too. We weren't really sure, but we were pretty sure that's what they were. A lot of partridge and stuff. Yeah. And then there was foxes that we got that were around town, and you could actually feed them.
One came to our door.
Yeah, looking for food, which was pretty neat. Not really supposed to feed wild animals, but they do in the town, so.
We did too.
Yeah, took part. It seemed like something we should do.
I think I did. My associate talked a lot about the 7 grandfather teachings, and she instilled that into her classroom. So the kids learned a lot about how to say the 7 grandfather teachings, and she did also the days of the week, and she talked about a few of the traditions, and she embedded it very well into her curriculum, into her coursework. So I got to see a little bit of that, but I just got to see a little bit of the social culture, like no eye contact. Like a lot of the times when I first started teaching, I would say, stop, look, and listen. a lot of kids are not going to look at me, and just because they're not looking at me doesn't mean they're not listening. And I found that out a couple weeks later when we had a discussion about that, and so she told me, you know what, don't worry about the eye contact, that does not mean that they're listening, right? They don't have to look at you to listen, they can hear you.
Yeah, we got to see a lot of the community aspect as well, like, and how the community works together, like everybody up there. There was a truck stuck in a road, down the road, and the community went out, a couple people from the community went out and got it out. And, you know, like, down south, you know, you pay a tow truck to come get you. My battery died one day on my car. The guy that owns the local garage came over, jumped my car, and he just told me, he's like, oh yeah, that's good, don't worry about paying me, like, you know. And whereas in Southern Ontario, that would have been a bill that I would have had to pay. And so, like, they really do rally around each other and take care of each other, and that's really neat to see, because even growing up in Southern Ontario, like, I grew up in a smaller community, and I always thought that there was, like, this great sense of community around me. And then going up to a northern community, like, there's way more sense of community around you, and it's not what you normally think a community is, but, like, well, what I normally would have thought was a community, but it really was neat, and I really enjoyed having people, you know, there, and everybody was always willing to, oh, do you want to come do this, do you want to come do that, like, we'll take you out this weekend to do this, you can come snowmobiling, you can come do this, and that's fun to have, and no one really just lets you sit there alone, so that was nice.
I think I'm really creative. I love creating just designs and wall designs, and I was doing a lot of that with the kids, and I found that they really enjoyed it. And especially when I would put their work up on the wall, I would just do it in such a creative way, and they enjoyed seeing their work up. And they enjoyed seeing it, and I felt as though they felt proud of it. When they saw it in that sort of arrangement that I would put it in, they were able to look at that and say, I created that, I did that. And even the ones who had missed the assignment asked me, can I finish it so I can you can put it up? Of course you can finish it. So I think that's what I brought to it.
I'm a dyslexic student, so I have dyslexia, and I went up, and a lot of the kids have reading disabilities, as we were talking about earlier, and being someone that was dyslexic in the classroom, they could see that, you know, just because they were having trouble reading, they can still have a chance to figure it out. Just because you don't know how to read now doesn't mean you're not going to know how to read. They don't have a lot of people to look up to all the time. Like, they do have people in the community to look up to, but they don't see young people coming up, because the young people that are getting educated leave town, and some of them don't come back, if not most of them. So they don't really get to see those people and what they've done with their lives. So by being a younger person coming into the community, still in school, they got to see, like, hey, look, he has trouble reading too, and he's in university, and he's going to be a teacher, and maybe I could be a teacher, because just because I can't read doesn't mean I can't be a teacher, or I can't do what I want to do. So I'm hoping that that really sticks with them, but they did have that while I was there, that installed them. It was neat to see them and grab onto that.
Yeah, they kind of think we were really good role models, and we had so much energy, and we
Yeah.
were just loving what we were doing. And I think the kids fed off of that. Like, yes, it was challenging, but there were some amazing moments.
Mm-hmm. There's new blood in the school, right? There's a new vibe. There's fresh people that they haven't seen before, and
They were curious and
yeah.
lots of questions. I got to get involved with Girls Club, and I'm still in contact with them now. I sent some stuff up for them, but I got to do that, and it was run through the, I think it was town hall, or the Lions Club. The Lions Club, and I got to work with them, and essentially it was just a bunch of girls once a week hanging out, talking about things that affected their lives and questions that they may have, and it was great because I thought, being a younger girl, I could answer some of the questions that they may have, and we had girls' night, so we would just do things like our nails and our hair, and it's just a great way to get together and talk, because I don't think they have that. A lot of them, they may have siblings, but they're not close to their siblings. So, and it was open to all grades, and we had girls from grade 4 to grade 8 come. And it worked out quite well.
So there was community nights where you could go to the gym and play sports in the school, so I would go do that, and we would help out at the community dinners and the community nights at the community center. Like, they have a pub night and games night and all this other fun stuff. So we got to go help out with that and see the community and how they react with each other, which was pretty cool. How fun it was, and I think of the kids, and I honestly do miss them. Like, I think of I can name almost every kid. I can name them all in my class, and I miss every one of them for the things that they do. I have some of their artwork that they drew for me that sit on my desk that I look at every once in a while, and it was just a really good, wholesome time. And like looking at it, it was something that I feel good that I did, and it was a life-changing experience.
I love the feeling of community. I grew up in Toronto, and I love the city. It's part of who I am. I never thought I would enjoy living or working anywhere else. But going up to this small community, I think I really saw for the first time what community was. Just everybody coming together, regardless of difference, coming together, doing those different events, working together. I enjoyed that. And I loved it so much that I would consider going up again and actually working there. So I got to see, like, although I'm a city girl, I can be in a small town and love it because of the fact community is such a strong aspect.
It was neat to see like the teachers, the paramedics, the guys that worked for Wasaya. They would put on these nights for everybody. Like the kids had Santa come in, and Santa got pulled in by on a sleigh by a snowmobile in one of his elves, and like just the sense of like these people doing something to make these kids so happy, and all the toys were donated by one of the local businesses. And I honestly don't know, like I want to say like any town in Ontario would do that, and I know businesses would donate, but I feel like for big cities it's hard to find volunteers to do stuff, and yet all these programs that they were running in this little community had tons of volunteers. And I don't think if you ran the same program and you dropped it into Toronto, like you would have a lot of volunteers, but per capita, you'd be nowhere close to what you get out to help out. And it's really neat to see people want to help other people. And you don't really see that in the big city as much as you do in the little community.
I think too what I enjoyed about it is just the simplicity of being in this small community. Coming from Toronto, you have all these things, you have traffic, you have the subway, and you have all these shops. And although you may not have that in those small communities, it's so simple. And it's great to just go back to that simplicity, because I think we forget about that living in a big city or living with all of those other elements around us.
I enjoyed being unplugged too, just getting offline, getting away from my cell phone. Like I found, you know what, the first couple of days was really hard for me. Like I walked into the apartment and was like, whoa, there's no TV. I'm like, whoa, don't have a cell phone. I've got really slow internet, like taking 15 minutes to load a 2-minute video on YouTube. So like, it was just a culture shock all the way around, and it was like really like an eye-opening experience. Like the first couple of days I was like, oh man, what did I do? But as soon as the community met us and rallied around, you're just like, whoa, you get involved, and the next thing you know, you don't miss your cell phone, you don't miss the internet, you don't miss all these things being connected all the time. And then when I came back, I found that like I'd look at my cell phone and I'd just be like, whoa, just put it away, and I don't need it, no one's talking to me, so why am I going on my cell phone to play a game?
Yeah, and it's an internal connection, right? It's not an external connection like we are, like we are connected in the city, right? It's internal, you're around all these people, and it's different.
Yeah, you're connected to people rather than your device in your hand. I honestly think if you're considering it, that it's something that you should try. If you at all have, like if you're thinking at all like, oh, I think I could do that, and I think it'd be fun, or I think maybe that's something I'm interested in, give it a shot. It's 6 weeks of your life. And you know what? If you don't do it, you're gonna end up regretting it. And if you do it and you don't like it, well, you did it and you don't like it, so you know you're not gonna go and get a job in a remote community. But if you do it and do like it, it's a great experience.
I think too, as teachers, we always tell our kids to try new things, step out of your comfort zone, do something different. And I think as teachers, we need to follow that model. We need to do that as well. Try something new, step out of our comfort zone. And that's just what it is, like take a chance, right? You never know what can come out of that chance.
Mm-hmm. And I got to use this placement as a bridge to one of the students in my literacy coaching at one of the local schools. He was having a hard day, and he really didn't want to do anything with me and didn't want to talk to me, and had a couple choice words for me. And the teacher turned to him and said, you know that Nick was up in a northern community for his placement. And he asked which one, and I told him. And he's like, oh, I'm from there. And all of a sudden the door opened and he was a great kid to me after that. But before that, he was really rude and wanted nothing to do with me and had a lot of hurtful words, we'll just put it that way, towards me. So it was neat to have an experience that, you know, a student is going to connect with. And even though like the student was from the same community, but even if it was a different community, he would still know that, like, yeah, I've been to where he's come from, and it's something that he can connect with and hopefully bridge a gap for some classes.
Yeah, I think too, students come from all walks of life, and that may be a very cliche thing to say, but when you're in a big city or in a big classroom, you think you tend to forget that. But when I was up there in this northern community, I got to see that, the difference amongst my students and how I could help them by differing my lessons or differing the way I administer my lessons.